The Resident Evil series, known for its intricate plot lines that blend horror, action, and sci-fi elements, spans numerous games. Here's a detailed overview of the main games in the series. Resident Evil, 1996, often hailed as a defining game in the survival horror genre, presents a gripping narrative set against the backdrop of a mysterious and menacing mansion. The story unfolds in the Arklay Mountains near the fictional Raccoon City in July 1998. The game's events are set in motion when the Bravo team of STARS, Special Tactics and Rescue Service, goes missing while investigating a series of gruesome and unexplained murders in the Arklay Mountains. The Alpha team, including key characters like Jill Valentine, an adept lockpicker, and Chris Redfield, a skilled combatant, is sent to find them. Their mission quickly turns awry when they are ambushed by genetically mutated dogs, forcing them to take refuge in a nearby, seemingly abandoned mansion. Once inside, the player, as either Jill or Chris, discovers that the mansion is infested with zombies and other horrific creatures, a result of a viral outbreak. As they navigate through the mansion's labyrinthine corridors and rooms, the gameplay emphasizes atmospheric horror, resource management, and strategic decision-making, with a strong focus on puzzle solving to unlock new areas and uncover the mansion's dark secrets. The mansion is soon revealed to be a cover for a clandestine research facility operated by the Umbrella Corporation, a pharmaceutical company conducting illegal and unethical experiments. These experiments have led to the development of the T-virus, a mutagenic pathogen responsible for the horrifying transformations of both humans and animals in and around the mansion. The narrative takes a dramatic turn when it is revealed that Albert Wesker, one of the stars, team members, has been working for Umbrella all along. He has manipulated the team into the mansion to collect combat data on the creatures created by the T-virus, including the Tyrant, an imposing and deadly bioweapon. The game's climax sees the player facing off against the Tyrant in an intense battle. Following this confrontation, the player discovers the mansion's self-destruct mechanism, initiating a countdown to its destruction. The finale of the game is marked by a desperate escape from the facility, with the outcome and survival of certain characters depending on the player's actions and choices throughout the game. Resident Evil masterfully blends elements of horror, action, and intricate storytelling, setting the stage for a franchise renowned for its deep lore, complex characters, and critical examination of themes like corporate greed and the ethics of scientific experimentation. The game's legacy lies not only in its innovative gameplay, but also in its ability to craft a deeply immersive and unsettling narrative experience. Resident Evil 2, released in 1998, expanded the narrative and world of the original game with new characters, locations, and a deeper exploration of the sinister Umbrella Corporation. The game is set in the fictional Raccoon City, a Midwestern American city now overrun with zombies and other horrors due to a virus outbreak. The game begins with two separate protagonists, each with their own narrative that intertwines and complements the other. The first one is Leon S. Kennedy, a rookie police officer arriving in Raccoon City for his first day on the job, unaware of the chaos that has engulfed the city. The second one is Claire Redfield, a college student and the younger sister of Chris Redfield from the first game, who comes to Raccoon City looking for her brother. Upon their arrival in the city, both Leon and Claire quickly realize the gravity of the situation. The T-virus, developed by the Umbrella Corporation and responsible for the events in the first game, has now spread to Raccoon City, turning its inhabitants into zombies. Leon and Claire meet by chance and decide to seek shelter in the Raccoon City Police Department, believing it to be a safe haven. Once inside the police department, they find that it too has been overrun by zombies and other mutated creatures. The building, a former museum, holds many secrets and is filled with puzzles, traps, and clues about the outbreak and Umbrella's involvement. Leon and Claire each navigate through the building, uncovering the grim reality of the situation. The story deepens with the introduction of the G-virus, a more potent and dangerous virus than the T-virus, developed by Umbrella scientist Dr. William Birkin. When Umbrella attempts to seize his research, Birkin injects himself with the G-virus, transforming into a monstrous creature. His actions further exacerbate the outbreak in the city. Leon and Claire each face their own challenges and meet different survivors, including Ada Wong, a mysterious woman with her own agenda who assists Leon and Sherry Birkin, the young daughter of William Birkin, whom Claire tries to protect. Their journey eventually leads them to an underground Umbrella laboratory where the full extent of the company's bioweapons research, including the G virus, is revealed. Here, they confront the mutated Birkin and uncover more about Umbrella's dark experiments. In the climax, Leon and Claire face off against the final mutations of Birkin in a desperate fight. After defeating him, they initiate the self-destruction of the facility to prevent the spread of the viruses. The game concludes with Leon, Claire, and Sherry escaping the city, which sets the stage for further exploration of the Umbrella Corporation's misdeeds in subsequent games. Resident Evil 2 was praised for its atmospheric storytelling, character development, and successful expansion of the lore established by the first game. It deepened the narrative of the franchise, setting a precedent for the complex, intertwined stories that would become characteristic of the Resident Evil series. Resident Evil 3, Nemesis, released in 1999, continues to build upon the intricate and horror-laden universe established by its predecessors. This installment takes players back to the zombie-infested Raccoon City, unfolding events both parallel to and following the story of Resident Evil 2. The game centers around Jill Valentine, one of the protagonists from the original Resident Evil. As a former member of the Special Tactics and Rescue Service, Jill is highly skilled and resourceful. The story begins with her attempting to escape Raccoon City during the devastating T-virus outbreak, which has turned most of the city's population into zombies. A defining element of Resident Evil 3 is the introduction of the Nemesis, a formidable bioweapon created by the Umbrella Corporation. The Nemesis is programmed to hunt down and eliminate the remaining STARS members. This relentless creature, capable of using weapons and exhibiting rudimentary tactical intelligence, is a constant and terrifying presence throughout the game, adding a unique and persistent sense of danger and urgency. As Jill navigates through the chaos of Raccoon City, she encounters various survivors and faces the challenge of deciding whom to trust. Her journey takes her through the city's streets, the police department, a hospital, and other locations, each infested with zombies and other mutated creatures. Throughout the game, the player gains deeper insights into Umbrella Corporation's role in the outbreak. The company's experiments and the development of bioweapons like the Nemesis are further exposed, highlighting the extent of their unethical practices. Jill encounters other key characters, including Carlos Oliveira, a mercenary working for Umbrella's Biohazard Countermeasure Service, who becomes an ally to Jill, and Nikolai Zinoviev, another Umbrella mercenary with hidden motives. The story progresses with Jill and her allies attempting to find a way out of the city. They face not only the threat of the Nemesis, but also the danger posed by the deteriorating city itself, which is on the brink of destruction due to the outbreak and ensuing chaos. In the climax, Jill confronts and eventually defeats the Nemesis after numerous encounters and battles. The game reaches its conclusion with a desperate escape from Raccoon City, which is ultimately destroyed in a missile strike ordered by the government to contain the outbreak. Resident Evil 3, Nemesis was particularly noted for its introduction of the Nemesis, a memorable and fear-inducing antagonist. The game expanded on the series' narrative and themes, such as corporate greed and the horrific consequences of unethical scientific experimentation. Its action-oriented gameplay, combined with survival horror elements, further solidified the Resident Evil franchise's reputation for delivering intense and engaging gaming experiences. Resident Evil, Code Veronica, released in 2000, marks a significant entry in the Resident Evil series, notable for its advancements in storytelling and graphics. The game departs from the confines of Raccoon City, offering a new setting and complex narrative that delves deeper into the backstory of the Umbrella Corporation and the series' lore. This time, main characters are Claire Redfield, the protagonist of Resident Evil 2, who returns searching for her brother, Chris Redfield, who is also a playable character. Chris arrives later in the game, searching for Claire. The game begins with Claire Redfield infiltrating an Umbrella facility in Paris, searching for her brother. She is captured and transported to a remote prison island, Rockfort Island, owned by Umbrella. The island comes under attack by an unknown force, leading to the release of the T-virus and yet another outbreak. Claire must navigate the dangers of the island, contending with zombies and other mutated creatures. She discovers that the island is a front for another of Umbrella's secret laboratories and research facilities. During her exploration, Claire encounters Steve Burnside, another prisoner, and they form an uneasy alliance. Central to the game's plot is the Ashford family, particularly twins Alfred and Alexia. The family's dark history with Umbrella and their development of the T. Veronica virus, a more advanced and deadly virus than the T virus, are key elements of the story. Alexia, a genius-level scientist, has used herself as a test subject for the virus, leading to dramatic consequences. Later in the game, Chris Redfield arrives on the island, searching for Claire. The narrative shifts to focus on his journey, which eventually leads him to Antarctica, following in Claire's footsteps. This Antarctic facility reveals more about the Ashford family's experiments and the true nature of the T. Veronica virus. The climax of the game involves confrontations with the mutated forms of Alexia and the unraveling of the Ashford family's tragic history. The game culminates in a desperate bid to escape the facility before its destruction, with Chris and Claire facing off against Alexia in her final monstrous form. Resident Evil, Code Veronica, continues the series' themes of corporate malfeasance and unethical scientific experimentation. It features puzzle-solving, exploration, and survival horror elements similar to its predecessors, but is notable for its more extensive use of 3D environments and a deeper narrative. The game was well received for its engaging story, which explored the backgrounds and motivations of the Umbrella Corporation and the characters entangled in its dark legacy. Code Veronica is often considered a pivotal title in the Resident Evil series, bridging the gap between the earlier game's stories and the broader, more complex narrative that would unfold in subsequent entries. Resident Evil 4, released in 2005, marked a significant evolution in the Resident Evil series, both in terms of its gameplay mechanics and its narrative direction. This installment departs from the traditional zombie outbreak narrative and introduces a new kind of threat in a different setting. The main character is Leon S. Kennedy, the protagonist, previously seen as a rookie cop in Resident Evil 2, now a trained agent sent on a rescue mission. Action takes place in a rural village in Spain, providing a departure from the urban and confined spaces of previous games. Leon is tasked with rescuing Ashley Graham, the daughter of the U.S. president, who has been kidnapped by a mysterious cult known as Los Iluminados. His search leads him to a remote village where he quickly discovers that the villagers are aggressively hostile and not typical zombies. The game introduces a new kind of threat, the Las Plagas parasite, which controls its hosts, granting them increased strength and aggression while maintaining their basic human functions. This change in enemy type significantly alters the gameplay dynamic, as the villagers can coordinate attacks, wield weapons, and show signs of intelligence. As Leon delves deeper into the village and surrounding areas, including a castle and an island facility, he uncovers the cult's plan to use the parasite for global domination. The cult, led by Osmond Sadler, intends to infect Ashley with the parasite and send her back to the U.S. to spread the infection. Resident Evil 4 introduces an over-the-shoulder camera perspective, a departure from the fixed camera angles of previous games. This change, along with more dynamic shooting mechanics, shifts the game towards more action-oriented gameplay, while still maintaining elements of horror and suspense. The climax of the game involves Leon rescuing Ashley and confronting Sadler. With the help of Ada, Leon defeats Sadler and secures a sample of the parasite. The game concludes with Leon and Ashley escaping the island before it is destroyed, and Leon decides to destroy the sample, thwarting Ada's plans to take it back to her employers. Resident Evil 4 was critically acclaimed for its innovative gameplay, engaging story, and the introduction of new elements that refreshed the franchise. Its influence extended beyond the Resident Evil series, impacting the design and mechanics of future third-person shooters and action games. The game successfully transitioned the series from its survival horror roots into a new era of action horror, setting a high standard for subsequent entries in the franchise. Resident Evil 5, released in 2009, continued the evolution of the series, blending action-heavy gameplay with the series' traditional survival horror elements. Set in Africa, it expanded the Resident Evil universe further, delving into the origins of the virus and the overarching narrative of the series. Main characters are Chris Redfield, one of the original characters from the first game, now working for the Bioterrorism Security Assessment Alliance BSAA, and Sheva Alomar, a BSAA agent native to the region who partners with Chris. The game is set in Kijuju, a fictional region in Africa, offering a new environment and backstory for the series. Chris and Sheva are sent to Kijuju to investigate a potential bioterrorism threat. They quickly encounter aggressive locals infected by a new type of virus, the Ouroboros virus. The Ouroboros virus, developed from the earlier T virus and Las Plagas, is a central element of the plot. It has the ability to drastically mutate its host, creating even more dangerous and grotesque creatures than previous iterations of the virus. The main antagonist, Albert Wesker, who has been a recurring character in the series, plans to use Ouroboros to start a new era of human evolution, selecting those he deems worthy to survive. Resident Evil 5 builds on the gameplay style of Resident Evil 4 with an over-the-shoulder camera and more action-oriented combat. A significant addition is the cooperative gameplay element, where a second player can control Sheva, or the AI controls her in single-player mode, as they travel through various locations in Kijuju, including villages, marshlands, and secret facilities. Chris and Sheva uncover the truth behind the Ouroboros virus and Wesker's intentions. They also discover connections to previous events in the series, including the fate of Jill Valentine, Chris's former partner. The climax of the game involves Chris and Sheva confronting Wesker in an epic battle, first on an aircraft carrier and then in a volcano. Wesker, having injected himself with a variant of the virus, has gained superhuman abilities, making him a formidable opponent. The game concludes with Chris and Sheva defeating Wesker and preventing the global outbreak he planned. The victory is bittersweet, as it comes with the realization of the widespread impact and threat of bioterrorism. Resident Evil 5 was notable for its emphasis on cooperative gameplay, its action-oriented approach, and the continuation of the series' overarching story. While it received some criticism for moving further away from its horror roots, it was praised for its visuals, setting, and the evolution of its gameplay mechanics. The game played a crucial role in shaping the future direction of the Resident Evil series. Resident Evil 6, released in 2012, is a standout in the Resident Evil series for its ambitious narrative that weaves together 4 interconnected storylines set against a backdrop of global bioterrorism caused by the C virus. The game opens with a harrowing scene where the President of the United States, turned into a zombie in a bioterrorism attack, is encountered by Leon S. Kennedy, a familiar figure from Resident Evil 2, and Helena Harper, a government agent with a hidden agenda. Their narrative, rich in horror elements, takes them from the chaos at Ivy University and the zombie-infested streets of Tall Oaks to the heart of the conspiracy in China. They unravel a complex plot behind the outbreak, facing various bioweapons and moral dilemmas along the way. Meanwhile, Chris Redfield, a central character in the series and a BSAA operative, joins forces with Piers Nivens, a skilled sniper. Their story is action-centric, focusing on a mission against bioterrorism in Eastern Europe. Chris battles personal demons and the horrors of the C virus's effects. Their path also leads them to China, where their storyline intersects with the others, and they confront large-scale bioweapons in a bid to avert a global disaster. In another part of the world, Jake Mueller, the son of Albert Wesker and bearer of crucial antibodies for the C virus vaccine, is introduced. He pairs with Sherry Birkin, a government agent and survivor from Resident Evil 2. Their story blends action and espionage with a relentless pursuit by the bioweapon Ustanok from the war-torn streets of Edonia to China. Their goal is to safely deliver Jake's blood for the vaccine, racing against time and enemies at every turn. The narrative complexity deepens with Ada Wong's solo mission. Her story unravels her involvement in the bioterrorism crisis and her connection to the game's antagonist, Carla Radames, who masqueraded as Ada to orchestrate the events leading to the C virus outbreak. Ada's journey offers critical insights into the overarching plot and motives behind the global crisis. Each storyline in Resident Evil 6 provides a unique perspective on the C virus chaos, with distinct gameplay experiences reflecting the diverse narratives, from Leon's survival horror elements to Chris's action-packed sequences. The narratives converge in China, where the protagonists join forces to combat the bioterrorism threat. As the game reaches its climax, intense confrontations unfold in China, revealing the full horror of the C virus. The characters face mutated creatures, towering bioweapons, and confront the masterminds behind the outbreak. These final battles bring closure to the characters' personal struggles and the broader bioterrorism theme that pervades the Resident Evil series. Resident Evil 6, with its multifaceted narrative, expanded the series' scope to a global scale, offering an in-depth exploration of bioterrorism's impact. While the game received mixed reviews for straying from traditional survival horror, it was praised for its narrative ambition and the richness it brought to the Resident Evil universe. Resident Evil 7: Biohazard, released in 2017, marked a return to the series' horror roots while introducing a first-person perspective to the franchise. Set in a dilapidated plantation in Dulve, Louisiana, the game blends traditional Resident Evil elements with a fresh narrative and gameplay approach. The story begins with Ethan Winters, a civilian who receives a mysterious message from his wife Mia, who has been presumed dead for 3 years. The message leads him to the derelict Baker family plantation. Upon arrival, Ethan is confronted with a nightmarish scenario. The Baker family, once ordinary people, have been transformed into seemingly immortal, psychotic beings due to an unknown infection. As Ethan explores the plantation, he encounters various members of the Baker family. Jack, the violent patriarch; Marguerite, whose sanity has been twisted by the infection; and Lucas, their son, who delights in creating sadistic traps. Each family member presents unique challenges and horrors for Ethan to overcome. The game's atmosphere is tense and claustrophobic, with the plantation house and its surroundings offering a maze of horrors and secrets. Ethan must navigate this environment, solving puzzles and uncovering clues about the Baker family's transformation and Mia's disappearance. The narrative deepens as Ethan discovers the origin of the infection, a bioweapon known as Eveline, who appears as a young girl. Eveline has the ability to infect people with a mold-like substance, controlling their minds and mutating their bodies. Ethan learns that Mia was involved in transporting Eveline when the ship they were on wrecked near the Baker's plantation, leading to the spread of the infection. Gameplay in Resident Evil 7 focuses on exploration, puzzle solving, and managing limited resources with a strong emphasis on horror and survival elements. The first-person perspective intensifies the fear and immersion, making encounters with the Bakers and other creatures even more terrifying. As Ethan delves deeper into the mystery, he faces not only the threats posed by the Bakers and other infected creatures, but also the challenge of rescuing Mia and escaping the plantation. The game culminates in a confrontation with Eveline, where Ethan must use everything he has learned to stop her and end the nightmare. Resident Evil 7: Biohazard was praised for its return to horror, atmospheric storytelling, and the effective use of the first-person perspective, which brought a new level of immersion to the series. The game successfully reinvigorated the franchise, balancing the introduction of new gameplay elements with the preservation of the core themes that have defined Resident Evil over the years. Resident Evil Village, released in 2021, is a direct sequel to Resident Evil 7: Biohazard and continues the story of Ethan Winters. The game is set in an eerie, snow-covered village in Eastern Europe, blending gothic horror elements with the series' signature survival horror gameplay. The narrative begins with Ethan living peacefully with his wife Mia and their infant daughter Rosemary following the events of the previous game. Their tranquility is shattered when Chris Redfield, a long-standing character in the series, suddenly appears, kills Mia and abducts Rosemary. Ethan is left unconscious and later finds himself in a mysterious village. As Ethan searches for his daughter, he discovers that the village is under the control of 4 different mutant lords, each with their own unique domain and horrifying creatures. These lords are part of a cult that worships a mysterious figure known as Mother Miranda, who is central to the game's plot. The village itself is a character in the game, with a labyrinthine layout filled with secrets, puzzles, and dangers. Ethan must navigate through the different domains, including a decrepit castle, a macabre dollhouse, a decaying reservoir, and a mechanical fortress, each presenting its own set of challenges and enemies. Throughout his journey, Ethan uncovers the dark history of the village and its connection to the mold infection from the previous game. He learns about Mother Miranda's plan to use Rosemary, who possesses special abilities due to her exposure to the mold, to resurrect her deceased child. Ethan's quest to save his daughter sees him confronting each of the lords, including the enigmatic Lady Dimitrescu, a towering vampire-like figure who has become an iconic character in the series. The confrontations with these lords are intense and showcase the game's varied enemy design. Resident Evil Village expands on the first-person gameplay of Resident Evil 7, offering a blend of exploration, puzzle solving, and combat. The game introduces new elements like hunting animals for resources and a greater emphasis on action, while still maintaining the horror atmosphere. The climax of the game reveals shocking twists about Ethan's nature and his connection to the mold, as well as Chris Redfield's true intentions. The final confrontation with Mother Miranda leads to a series of dramatic events, culminating in a sacrifice that shapes the future of the series. Resident Evil Village was acclaimed for its atmospheric setting, horror elements, and engaging storyline. It successfully built upon the foundation laid by Resident Evil 7, while introducing new gameplay mechanics and narrative elements that expanded the Resident Evil universe. The game was praised for its ability to balance horror with action, creating a terrifying yet thrilling experience. Apart from the main series, the Resident Evil franchise includes several spin-offs, remakes, and side stories that explore different facets of the universe and its characters. These games often experiment with various gameplay styles and narratives, contributing to the richness and depth of the series. Here's an overview of some notable titles. 1. Resident Evil 0, 2002. A prequel to the original game, it follows ST-ARS member Rebecca Chambers and convict Billy Cohen as they investigate the events leading up to the first game. It introduces a unique character switching mechanic. 2. Resident Evil Outbreak, 2003. And Outbreak, File Number 2, 2004. These games are set during the Raccoon City incident and are notable for their online multiplayer gameplay. Players control different civilians trying to escape the city. 3. Resident Evil, The Umbrella Chronicles, 2007, and The Dark Side Chronicles, 2009. These are on-rail shooters for the Wii that retell the events of the earlier games and add new backstory elements. 4. Resident Evil Revelations, 2012, and Revelations 2, 2015. Set between the events of the main series games, these titles return to the series' horror roots and explore stories involving BSAA agents, including Jill Valentine and Claire Redfield. 5. Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City, 2012. A third-person shooter set during the Raccoon City incident, it offers a reinterpretation of the events from the perspective of an Umbrella Security Service team. 6. Resident Evil, The Mercenaries, 3D, 2011. A game focused on the Mercenaries mode from the main series, emphasizing fast-paced, arcade-style action against waves of enemies. 7. Resident Evil Survivor Series. A series of light gun shooters that explore side stories within the Resident Evil universe. 8. Resident Evil Dead Aim, 2003. a hybrid first-person shooter and third-person survival horror game set on a cruise ship and a remote island. 9. Resident Evil Gaiden, 2001. A unique entry for the Game Boy Color featuring a different style of gameplay and a story set on a zombie-infested ocean liner. Each of these games contributes to the expansive Resident Evil universe, offering new perspectives, gameplay experiences, and insights into the series' overarching narrative. While they vary in terms of critical and fan reception, they collectively showcase the franchise's ability to evolve and experiment across different gaming platforms and genres.